All India Radio presents Morning News. Good morning. I am Saira Mujtaba and with me is Subhadra Ramachandran. The headlines. Prime Minister Narendra Modi speaks to Russian President Vladimir Putin, calls for immediate end to violence, raises safety issue of Indians in Ukraine. India considering ways to evacuate its citizens as Ukraine has closed its airspace for civilian flights. US President Joe Biden unveils new sanctions on Russia, all Russian assets in America to be frozen. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to address a webinar titled Atmanirbharta in Defence, Call to Action today. Campaigning for fifth phase of assembly elections in Uttar Pradesh to end this evening. Moody's raises India's growth forecast to 9.5% from 7% for the year 2022. India's COVID vaccination coverage crosses 176 crore 76 lakh mark. And in cricket, India beat Sri Lanka by 62 runs in first T20 of three-match series at Lucknow. With the new Omicron variant of coronavirus causing concern, we appeal to our listeners to be vigilant and get fully vaccinated, and also help others, including children between 15 and 18 years, get vaccinated. Please continue to follow these three simple steps to stay safe. Wear a face mask, maintain 2 gaz ki duri for social distancing, focus on hand and face hygiene. For any COVID-related information and guidance, contact national helpline numbers 01123978046 and 1075. And now the news in detail. Prime Minister Narendra Modi had a telephonic conversation with Russian President Vladimir Putin last night. President Putin briefed the Prime Minister about the recent developments regarding Ukraine. In a release, Prime Minister's office said, the Prime Minister reiterated his long-standing conviction that the differences between Russia and the NATO group can only be resolved through honest and sincere dialogue. The Prime Minister appealed for an immediate cessation of violence and called for concerted efforts from all sides to return to the path of diplomatic negotiations and dialogue. Prime Minister Modi also sensitized the Russian President about India's concerns regarding the safety of the Indian citizens in Ukraine, especially students, and conveyed that India attaches the highest priority to their safe exit and return to India. The leaders agreed that the officials and diplomatic teams would continue to maintain regular contacts on issues of topical interest. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has conveyed at the Cabinet Committee on Security meeting that the topmost priority of the government is the safety and security of Indian nationals, including Indian students, and the evacuation from Ukraine. Briefing the media yesterday, Foreign Secretary Harshvardhan Shringla said, a number of steps have been taken over the last month or so to deal with the emerging situation in Ukraine, including the contingencies that could arise.
Our embassy in Ukraine continues to be functional, is rendering all assistance possible to Indian nationals there, notwithstanding the fairly complicated and evolving situation that we find ourselves in. The embassy has issued a number of advisories in recent days. Itself, the embassy has issued 3 advisories, and these provide advice to Indian nationals on the situation as it evolves, travel towards safer places, including western parts of the country that will facilitate the exit by road and other means, safety precautions that our citizens would take, etc. Our ambassador has also sent a personal message to all Indian citizens in Ukraine, providing advice. We are consulting universities, student contractors in the process of providing for the welfare and safety of our students.
He said the ministry started registration of Indian nationals in Ukraine about a month ago. The ministry took a number of measures to facilitate flights out of the country. These include removing the cap on the number of passengers that could fly out of Ukraine. He said they also ensured that the number of flights were augmented rapidly from twice a week to 2 flights a day. The Foreign Secretary also said that the Indian Embassy in Ukraine continues to be functional. Russian-speaking officers have been dispatched to Kiev and to the countries neighboring Ukraine.
Indian Embassy in Kiev has written to Ukraine government for the safety and security of Indian students in the country. Over 15,000 Indian students are stranded in the country in various regions. In the letter, the embassy said it would be grateful if their safety and security is ensured and they are allowed to remain wherever they are. It also requested Ukraine government to make arrangements for providing essential amenities like food and water for their survival. India is considering different ways to evacuate its citizens from Ukraine as commercial flights can no longer land in the war-torn country. In view of the closure of the Ukrainian airspace, alternative arrangements are being made for the evacuation of Indian nationals. A team from the Indian Embassy in Hungary has been dispatched to the border post Zohani to coordinate and provide assistance to facilitate the exit of Indians from Ukraine. In a tweet, the mission said it is working with Hungary government to provide all possible assistance. India is closely monitoring the situation and evacuation plans are being worked out. External Affairs Ministry teams are also being sent to the land borders with Ukraine and Poland, Slovak Republic and Romania. The team from Poland is on its way to Krakowice and border with Ukraine. The team from Slovak Republic is on its way to Vis-Nimec land border and the team from Romania is on its way to Suceava. The ministry has advised Indian nationals in Ukraine near these border points to contact these teams in case they wish to depart from Ukraine. The contact numbers are available on the website of the ministry. Around 20,000 Indians are stuck in Ukraine after Russia launched a military operation against its neighbor. Indian Embassy in Kyiv issued 3 separate advisories yesterday. Indian Ambassador to Ukraine, Partha Satpathy, called on Indians to face the current situation with calm and fortitude as the situation is highly tense and very uncertain. He said the Ministry of External Affairs and the Embassy are working on a mission mode to find a solution to this difficult situation. The ambassador said the Indian Embassy in Kyiv continues to remain open and in operation.
US President Joe Biden unveiled new sanctions on Russia meant to punish the country for its invasion of Ukraine. Addressing the nation from the White House, President Biden said that Russian President Vladimir Putin is the aggressor and now his country will bear the consequences. The US President laid out a set of sanctions including export controls that will impose severe costs on the Russian economy. He said all Russian assets in America will be frozen.
Today I'm authorizing additional strong sanctions and new limitations on what can be exported to Russia. This is going to impose severe costs on the Russian economy, both immediately and over time. We have purposely designed these sanctions to maximize the long-term impact on Russia and to minimize the impact on the United States and our allies. And I want to be clear, the United States is not doing this alone. For months, we've been building a coalition of partners representing well more than half the global economy.
President Biden said the new sanctions also include 4 Russian banks and corrupt billionaires and their families who are close to the Kremlin. He also announced a new deployment of ground and air forces to NATO's eastern flank, even as he reiterated US troops would not engage in direct conflict in Ukraine. He said US forces are not going to Europe to fight in Ukraine, but defend their NATO allies and reassure those allies in the east.
You are listening to the morning news on All India Radio. A reminder of the headlines before we move on. Prime Minister Narendra Modi speaks to Russian President Vladimir Putin, calls for immediate end to violence, raises safety issue of Indians in Ukraine. India considering ways to evacuate its citizens as Ukraine has closed its airspace for civilian flights. US President Joe Biden unveils new sanctions on Russia, all Russian assets in America to be frozen. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to address a webinar titled Atmanirbharta in Defense, Call to Action today. Campaigning for 5th phase of Assembly elections in Uttar Pradesh to end this evening. Moody's raises India's growth forecast to 9.5% from 7% for the year 2022. India's COVID vaccination coverage crosses 176 lakh mark. And in cricket, India beat Sri Lanka by 62 runs in the first T20 of 3-match series at Lucknow. For quick news updates around the clock, follow us on our Twitter handle @AIR News Alerts.
अपने बिजनेस को बढ़ाने के लिए लीजिए आकाशवाणी का सहयोग और दीजिए उसे बुलंदियों के पंख।
आपका बिजनेस लोकल है या राष्ट्रीय, आकाशवाणी देती है उपभोक्ताओं तक पहुंचने का हर विकल्प।
और अब तो आप घर, दफ्तर या दुकान पर बैठे बैठे कर सकते हैं आकाशवाणी के किसी भी केंद्र के लिए विज्ञापनों की बुकिंग।
आकाशवाणी के विभिन्न चैनलों पर विज्ञापन देना सुलभ और सस्ता।
बुकिंग है तो संपर्क करें 8700014242 पर।
8700014242।
Welcome back to the morning news. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will address a webinar titled Atmanirbharta in Defence Call to Action today. The objective of the webinar is to involve all the stakeholders in taking forward the various initiatives of the government in the defence sector. The Defence Ministry is organising the post-budget webinar on the announcements made in the Union Budget 2022-23. Speaking exclusively to AIR News, Minister of State Ajay Bhatt said India is emerging as a superpower.
भारत आज विश्व की महाशक्तियों में आगे आ गया है, चाहे आर्थिक मामले में लें, कृषि के मामले में लें, सेना के मामले में लें, सुरक्षा के कोई क्षेत्र ले लें आप। सेना में तो क्रांतिकारी परिवर्तन हुआ है। पहले से हम बाहर से मंगाते थे सब चीजें, आज सारी की सारी चीजें यहाँ भारत में बन रही हैं। इस समय हम 72 से ज्यादा देशों को अपनी बनाई हुई चीजें बाहर को दे रहे हैं, लोग ले जा रहे हैं जो पब्लिक डोमेन में है। आज हम पूर्ण तरह से आत्मनिर्भर हैं। आज आप देख रहे हैं कि सारी सीमाएं आज हमारी चाक चौबंद हैं। इससे जो हमारा सोच है उससे बहुत ही मजबूती मिल रही है और मिलेगी।
We have a report.
The webinar will have panel discussions with eminent speakers and experts from Ministry of Defence, Defence Industry, startups and academia. The valedictory session will be chaired by Defence Minister Rajnath Singh. The webinar will have breakout sessions on 4 themes: progressive increase in the capital procurement budget for domestic industry, opportunities and challenges, developing all-round defence research and development ecosystem in the country, special purpose vehicles by industries with DRDO and other organizations, and to meet wide-ranging testing and certification requirements, setting up an independent nodal umbrella body. The sessions are planned in a manner to allow for ample interaction with stakeholders with a view to evolve a participative approach for time-bound implementation of announcements. Anupam Mishra, AR News, Delhi.
Chemicals and Fertilizers Minister Dr. Mansukh Mandavia will inaugurate a seminar, Industry Connect 2022, Industry and Academia Synergy in New Delhi today. The Department of Chemicals and Petrochemicals, in association with Central Institute of Petrochemicals, Engineering and Technology and Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry, is organizing this seminar. During the seminar, 2 technical sessions will be organized on various issues.
BioAsia Summit 2022, the annual flagship event of the life sciences industry, began in Hyderabad yesterday. About 50 celebrities from various organizations, including Bill Gates, will address the conference. Telangana IT and Industry Ministers K. Taraka Ramarao has inaugurated the 19th edition of BioAsia Conference. He said Hyderabad plays a vital role in life sciences across the country and worldwide. The BioAsia will discuss many topics related to life sciences, COVID challenges in the health sector for the next 2 days. India's COVID vaccination coverage has crossed 176 crore 76 lakh mark. More than 28 lakh vaccine doses were administered yesterday. More than 1 crore 97 lakh precaution doses have been administered to the identified categories of beneficiaries like healthcare workers, frontline workers and people over 60 years of age. Campaigning for the 5th phase of assembly elections in Uttar Pradesh will end this evening. A report.
Cacophony of campaign will fall silent this evening on the 61 seats of 12 districts of a state, where polling is in 5th phase of elections. The districts going for poll in this phase are Barabanki, Raebareli, Pratapgarh, Kaushambi, Prayagraj, Ayodhya, Shravasti, Bahraich, Gonda, Sultanpur, Amethi and Chitrakoot. Meanwhile, campaigning has intensified for the other phases of elections in the state also. Congress MP and former party president Rahul Gandhi will address his first rally in this elections at Amethi and Prayagraj today. Party General Secretary Priyanka Gandhi Vadra will also accompany him. Senior BJP leader and Union Home Minister Amit Shah will campaign in Prayagraj, Pratapgarh and Ambedkar Nagar districts today. Union Information and Broadcasting Minister and co-in-charge of UP elections for BJP, Anurag Singh Thakur, will campaign for party candidates in Barabanki and Pratapgarh districts. Sushil Chandra Tiwari, AIR News, Lucknow.
American credit rating agency Moody's Investors Service has raised India's growth forecast to 9.5% from 7% for the calendar year 2022. The agency today revised its growth projection for India, citing a stronger than expected economic recovery from the national lockdown of 2020 and the second wave of the COVID-19 pandemic in mid-2021. Moody's said in a statement that they have raised the 2022 calendar year growth forecast for India and maintained the forecast for 5.5% growth in 2023. This translates into 8.4% growth in fiscal year 2022-23 and 6.5% growth in fiscal year 2023-24. However, it flagged high oil prices and supply distortions as a drag on growth. It said the Indian economy is estimated to have surpassed the pre-COVID level of GDP by more than 5% in the last quarter of 2021 and added that sales tax collection, retail activity and PMI suggest solid momentum. The agency said 2022 budget prioritized growth with a 36% increase in allocation to capital expenditure to 2.9% of GDP for the fiscal year 2022-23. It said with the RBI leaving interest rates unchanged at its February meeting, monetary policy remains supportive. And now let's listen to our special program, Azadi Ka Safar, highlighting the importance of the day during the freedom struggle.
Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav.
Azadi Ka Safar with AIR News, Birth of a Nation.
India's glorious freedom struggle is one of the greatest struggles the modern world has ever witnessed. AIR News brings you a glimpse of the struggle every day.
On the 25th of February, Pitt's India Act of 1784 was passed by the British Parliament in order to rectify the shortcomings of the Regulating Act of 1773. The Act was named after William Pitt, who was then Prime Minister of Britain. The Act was also known as the East India Company Act 1784.
The purpose of this Act was to draw a clear distinction between the commercial and political activities of the East India Company. The Act introduced a system of dual control under which, for political matters, the Board of Control was created and for commercial affairs, the Court of Directors was appointed.
The Pitt's Act thus helped in establishing the British Crown's authority over the civil, military and revenue matters in the Indian territories. The East India Company, however, held monopoly over the commercial activities in the Indian territories and also had the right to appoint or dismiss its own officials.
It was after the coming of the Pitt's India Act that the property of the East India Company was called British Possessions in India. Also, the direct control over the administration of India was given to the British government. These changes in administration brought about by the Pitt's India Act continued till 1858, when the British government was forced to change the way of administration after the First War of Independence in 1857.
We also remember the Indian independence activist Ravi Shankar Maharaj, who was born on the 25th of February 1884 in Kheda district of Gujarat.
Ravi Shankar was influenced by Arya Samaj philosophy. He was one of the earliest and closest associates of Gandhiji and Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel.
Along with Darbar Gopal Das Desai, Narhari Parikh and Mohanlal Pandya, Ravi Shankar was the chief organizer of nationalist revolts in Gujarat in the 1920s and 1930s. He founded Rashtriya Shala National School in Sunav village in 1920. He left his rights on ancestral property and joined the Indian independence movement in 1921.
He participated in Satyagraha in 1923 and protested against Haidia tax. He also participated in Bardoli Satyagraha in 1926 and was imprisoned by the British for 6 months. He participated in relief work for flood victims in 1927, which earned him recognition. He joined Gandhiji in Salt March in 1930 and was imprisoned for 2 years. In 1942, he participated in the Quit India movement and also tried to pacify communal violence in Ahmedabad.
After the independence of India, he devoted himself to social work. He joined Vinoba Bhave in the Bhudan movement and travelled 6,000 kilometres between 1955 and 1958. In the 1960s, he organised and supported the Sarvodaya movement. Ravi Shankar Maharaj inaugurated the state of Gujarat when it was created on the 1st of May 1960.
Until his death, it was a tradition that every newly appointed Chief Minister of Gujarat visited him for blessings after taking oath of office. He died on the 1st of July 1984 in Bursad, Gujarat. The memorial dedicated to him is located at Adhyapan Mandir, Bochapur.
That brings us to the end of this episode of Azadi Ka Safar with AIR News. See you in the next episode tomorrow.
In the news magazine Parikrama today, listen to the special roundup on patriotic films and songs which lifted the spirit of the Indian national movement in Azadi Ke Tarane at 4:45 p.m.
The National War Memorial is celebrating its 3rd anniversary today. Navy Chief Admiral R. Hari Kumar and Air Force Chief Air Chief Marshal Vivek Ram Chaudhary and Vice Chief of Indian Army Lieutenant General Manoj Pandey lay wreaths at the memorial to mark the occasion. Defence Secretary Dr. Ajay Kumar also laid a wreath and paid homage to the fallen brave hearts of the nation. Today, Inter-Services Band along with Students Band of VSPK International School, Rohini, New Delhi will enthrall the audience at the memorial. President Ramnath Kovind will undertake a 3-day visit to Assam beginning today. He will inaugurate the year-long celebration to mark the 400th birth anniversary of the great Ahom general Lachit Borphukan in Guwahati today. A report.
President Ramnath Kovind will start his Assam visit by seeking the blessings of Ma Kamakhya in Guwahati today. Later in the day, the President will launch the birth anniversary celebration of Lachit Borphukan by laying the foundation for the redevelopment of the General's Memorial at Jorhat district. In the same event, he will also lay the foundation for a memorial of the Alaboy battle at Dodora in Kamrup district. The Assam government will celebrate the 400th birth anniversary of Lachit Borphukan in different places of the country this year. Tomorrow, Mr. Kovind will attend the convocation ceremony of Tezpur University at Tezpur. On the same day, the President will undertake a jeep safari in Kaziranga National Park and also review the conservation and development efforts of the park. Manas Pratim Sharma, AIR News, Guwahati.
Millets like ragi, jowar, bajra are one of the oldest foods known to humans. Recognizing the importance of millets, the Government of India observed 2018 as a year of millets to encourage and promote its production. To create domestic and global demand and to provide nutritional food to the people, the Government of India spearheaded the United Nations General Assembly UNGA resolution for declaring 2023 as International Year of Millets. The proposal of India was supported by 72 countries and UNGA declared 2023 as International Year of Millets in March last year. In view of this declaration and carrying forward the Centre's initiatives, the Union Budget 2022-23 highlighted that support would be provided for post-harvest value addition, enhancing domestic consumption and for branding millet products nationally and internationally. In a webinar held yesterday dealing with the positive impact of Union Budget 2022-23 on the agriculture sector, Prime Minister Modi noted that year 2023 has been recognized as the International Year of Millets and called upon the corporate world to come forward in branding and promoting Indian millets. He also asked major Indian missions abroad to organize seminars and other promotional activities to popularize the quality and benefits of Indian millets.
In cricket, India defeated Sri Lanka by 62 runs in the first T20 international of the 3-match series at Lucknow last night. After setting a target of 200 runs, India restricted Sri Lanka to 137 for 6 in 20 overs. For India, Bhuvneshwar Kumar and Venkatesh Iyer bagged 2 wickets each, while Yuzvendra Chahal and Ravindra Jadeja claimed 1 wicket each. Earlier, the hosts posted 199 for 2 in 20 overs after being invited to bat first.
And now let's take a look at the weather forecast for today. National capital Delhi is likely to have a partly cloudy sky with light rain. Temperatures will vary between 13 and 27 degrees Celsius. Mumbai will have a mainly clear sky. Minimum temperature was 21, while maximum is expected to be around 33 degrees Celsius. Chennai is likely to have a partly cloudy sky. Temperature will hover between 24 and 32 degrees Celsius. Kolkata will have a mainly clear sky. Minimum temperature was 19, while maximum is expected to be around 30 degrees Celsius. Srinagar will have a partly cloudy sky with the possibility of rain or thunderstorm or dust storm. Temperatures will hover between 1 and 8 degrees Celsius. Jammu will have a generally cloudy sky with light rain. Minimum temperature was 11, while maximum will be around 19 degrees Celsius. Leh is likely to have a partly cloudy sky. The temperature will hover between -10 and 1 degree Celsius. Gilgit will have a partly cloudy sky as well. Temperature will hover between 3 and 13 degrees Celsius. Muzaffarabad will have a generally cloudy sky with possibility of rain or thunderstorm or dust storm. The minimum temperature was 8 degrees Celsius and maximum will be around 14 degrees. Hyderabad will have fog in the morning and mainly clear sky later. Temperature will hover between 20 and 35 degrees Celsius. Bengaluru will have fog in the morning and mainly clear sky later. Minimum temperature was 17, while maximum will be around 32 degrees Celsius. Thiruvananthapuram will have a partly cloudy sky with possibility of moderate rain or thunderstorm. Temperatures will hover between 25 and 34 degrees Celsius. Shillong will have a partly cloudy sky in the morning hours, becoming generally cloudy towards the evening or night, with possibility of rain or thunder showers accompanied with squall. Temperature will hover between 7 and 14 degrees Celsius. Aizawl will have a partly cloudy sky. Minimum temperature was 9, while maximum will be around 23 degrees Celsius.
And now an overview of today's newspapers. Russia entering Ukrainian territory is the headline that dominates the front pages of all dailies today. Hindustan Times writes, Putin invades Ukraine. The same paper also carries related stories on the front page with headlines, Sensex loses 2,700 in global drought, oil source, and Modi speaks to Putin on attack, evacuation. The Pioneer headlines, Russia launches full-scale attack on Ukraine. The Asian Age reports, Russian troops, tanks roll into Ukraine amid dire Putin threats not to meddle. The Hindu says, world shocked by Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Another story reports the predicament of Indian students stuck in the war-torn country with the closure of airspace for commercial flights. Uncertainty grips Indian students stuck in Ukraine. Air India flight turns back midway. Global markets tumble as the Russia-Ukraine crisis rattles the economy. Financial Express notes, attack on Ukraine wounds markets. The Pioneer writes, markets bleed. The Tribune reports, massacre on bourses, crude crosses $100. And the Hindu Business Line says, market bombs as Russia invades Ukraine. Another story headlines, Europe faces worst crisis of post-war era. And finally, in order to promote the national capital as a hub for modern filmmaking, the Delhi Cabinet approves India's most progressive state film policy. The Pioneer says, Delhi's film policy gets green light.
And now, before we end the bulletin, the headlines once again. Prime Minister Narendra Modi speaks to Russian President Vladimir Putin. Calls for immediate end to violence. Raises safety issue of Indians in Ukraine. India considering ways to evacuate its citizens as Ukraine has closed its airspace for civilian flights. US President Joe Biden unveils new sanctions on Russia. All Russian assets in America to be frozen. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to address a webinar titled Atmanirbharta in Defence, Call to Action today. Campaigning for 5th phase of Assembly elections in Uttar Pradesh to end this evening. Moody's raises India's growth forecast to 9.5% from 7% for the year 2022. India's COVID vaccination coverage crosses 176 lakh mark. And in cricket, India beat Sri Lanka by 62 runs in the first T20 of 3-match series at Lucknow. For details of these stories and more, log on to our website www.newsonair.gov.in and News on AIR app. And with that, we end the morning news. Have a great day.